Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon, and today we're going to be going over the semifinals of the Rift Rumble tournament that we had a video on yesterday. And so I am going to spoil the result for when we're talking about this, so I'm going to spoil it right now. So if you want to just go watch it yourself without being spoiled, just go watch my stream VOD, which you can find on my Twitch channel or my YouTube channel. The title of it would just be like Rift Rumble semifinals. I think there's two ones that would have that, but it would be the first VOD. So go check that. And now I'm going to spoil the result. So we're playing against Soja Rain, Cosmic Soul, I don't know their support or top laner, and then Tony. So these players are very good. I think they've played like competitive in the past, some of them, and are really good players. And we lost 3-0 to them overall, and then we got third place in the tournament because the team that we would play in the third place game just decided not to play. So we got third place with the tournament overall. And so we're going to be watching 2 of the 3 of these games and kind of trying to figure out just like what happened. Obviously, none of me or my teammates really ever played competitive for the most part, and it's all kind of like more new to us. So we're kind of just figuring things out. I think third place in the first tournament we ever played was pretty good, and so we're kind of just going to watch this and see sort of what went wrong. I'm going to be skipping through and treating this more like a review because the games are, we do get kind of stomped, especially in 2 of the 3 games, pretty hard. This game and then the Ziggs game. I'm not really going to show the Ziggs game because that one ends in like 2 minutes because we get destroyed like the level 1 pretty much. So it's not as much to learn from. So we're kind of like looking again with to learn from it. And so when I look at it already, like the first thing we see is, so we have our dual lane in top side because we wanted to play really hard around them, and then they have their dual lane in mid. We tried different things in scrims, sometimes having dual lane mid, sometimes side, with like different success depending on the game. But you see here, so we end up having our dual lane there, and because of that, they end up getting an early invade on our Krugs, or on our whatever these are called. I don't know why I can't think of what they're called right now. And then I think we get an invade on their Krugs. So we get their chickens, they get their Krugs. Honestly, in my opinion, to prevent this, what we should have done is just had Riven do red into this camp, because then when they look for the invade, I can be level 2 and just go on them, and then I can pressure the wave a bit harder to get level 2 off this wave, because you saw I kind of just completely gave up the level 1 wave. So I think if we did that, that would have been the first thing that would have been more beneficial. The second thing here is, we knew that our teammate who's probably going to be targeted is our Fiora because they're easier to dive and a lot squishier of a champion. And oftentimes what we would see this team do is they would 2 or 3 camp and then immediately look for a gank. We saw them do it before. We called it. We were talking about how they would do it. And we still got punished by it. This is the first game of the series, by the way. And so I would say the main issue here then as well. And again, I also want to point out, when I point out my teammates' mistakes, all of this is in the context of just like what I think we should have done differently. So again, I should have pushed this wave harder, for example, the first wave, so that I was able to prevent that invade as hard. I think we have Riven start red, and then also is easier to prevent. So I think there's like, again, it's not blaming any one player when we talk about this. I want to make that very clear. It's all because we're trying to figure out like what could have gone differently or what we could have improved on. That's why I also spoiled the result, because that's again kind of the context of this video, is to see like what could have changed or made the gameplay different in a way that then we would have been able to obviously win. So with that in mind, Fiora is our champion who we knew is going to be like weak-sided, who's not going to have as much attention, and because of that, they probably shouldn't have traded very hard. Whereas if we look at what ends up happening, you see how he trades really, really hard with the Yone here, and Yone clearly is intentionally doing this, where Yone knows that he's going to get his jungle pathing towards him, and so he's trading. And so in Fiora's mind, and again, because we're all like solo queue, duo queue players, in his mind, Hadi, our top laner, the Baron laner, he's thinking to himself, oh, well, it makes sense for me to trade because Yone is giving me a good trade so I can win the trade, because he does win the trade against Yone here. But the problem is, it doesn't matter if he wins the trade or loses the trade. They're both low health, which is good for him, the Yone, because their jungle's pathing towards him. And so you see Yone ends up flashing there, as we can see on the map, and then first blood to the Vi, pretty much again just because they're trading really hard on the laner that they want to play around. And then you see their Jax, who's their laner they're not playing around, ends up just staying full health and not really trading much. And then because they have the prio and the dual lane, they're able to out-rotate me, obviously. And I think I could have probably pressured harder in mid just to like prevent rotations as well. So like I think what I should have done here a lot better is just kind of go up on the wave and let them poke me because I have my TP. And I think I should just try to get more value out of TP in the first 3 minutes, because TP is a 180-second cooldown, which means you don't need it until 6 minutes for the objective. So I might as well use it pre 3 minutes so that it comes back up for the objective. And so if I traded really hard on the waves, they wouldn't have had so much pressure. So I think I should have been really aggro on the level 1 wave, as we spoke about, to then get that level 2 first, and then use that so they can't get an invade off, and then again go more aggro on these couple waves so the enemy can't just constantly get that roaming off. Again, I think we start our jungle on red buff so they can level 2 look for the invade to prevent that invade that the enemy would do, which we should again have awareness that they could do. And then again, our weak side champion, which is the Fiora in this case, shouldn't trade as hard early on when our jungle's not pathing towards them. So that's overall what we see so far, led to us falling quite far behind in this game, right? And because of all those things, I think, you know, it made it a lot harder. Here I TP'd because we knew Fiora was getting dove, and so I'm like, hey, I'll dive, or I'll TP to prevent it, and then you just go into the mid lane. So I think this is what TP can be really useful for, is preventing dives like this, right? So because we do that, we end up not, you know, losing Fiora, and then Fiora ends up just going towards the mid lane for free here. So I think this is kind of the basically what again we could have ideally done without falling behind early game. And then Fiora goes top side, and so I think this is a really good kind of swap we get going here. And then because I was not sharing XP, I end up being really strong level 6 versus level 5 on the Yone, who's been sharing a little bit of XP and everything with the Vi, with the Singed at different points. So we can take advantage of the fact that we have these level diffs on our solo laners, where they can then harder trade, again like me with the volley here. And you're going to see here I'm going to trade pretty hard in a little bit after I take my recall. My teammates end up trying to get a pick on Singed. I don't remember if they actually kill him or not. It looks like he doesn't quite die. But yeah, because of that early game, we're behind a lot more than we need to be, which obviously just makes everything kind of a little more difficult, right? So, and then Jax here, again, is way ahead of Fiora because of how far Fiora got put behind. And so now Fiora is just on a side lane where they just can't play super well. They're down a level. They're down 400 gold. And a lot of this early game planning, I think, is really what was the biggest problem for us in this series. Because, like, these players that we're playing against, they're good players. They're really good. They got second in the tournament, by the way. They did lose to Starting All Over's team, if you guys know Starting, or Valhalla, Gume, Lamont, Hestia. That was the team that won the tournament. They ended up losing 3-0 to those guys. So, like, even these guys who we got 3-0 by, there's a team that's even, like, better than them by a rather significant margin. And I think these players, again, they're good. I think we definitely could have beat them, though. Here, main issue, I just end up, my ult doesn't connect. And so I don't get the damage from my ult. I got a bit greedy. I think if I just pushed the wave, it would have been better. But, yeah. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I ended up having to cut that out for a second because I got a call from my email. I got locked out of my email for no reason, for my school email, so I had to call like the tech thing, and they called me back. Doesn't matter. So going back into what we were saying, so basically a lot of the early game was kind of the big issue for us. We fall behind here, but at this point now we're just trying to come back because we are down 2k gold. You can win a game down 2k gold. It's not the end of the world, but because we are put quite behind in lanes, I feel like we need to really hard kind of play around, you know, whoever at least looks relatively strong on our team, but everyone's kind of fallen behind, and it just feels overall, you know, a bit tough to play from this type of point. And so I really do feel like a lot of the planning, you know, despite these guys being good players, I think they're completely, you know, beatable, right? Like, all of them are good, but definitely players that I feel like we could beat if we have this better plans and these kind of better early game things that lead to us being in a better spot mid game. Because a lot of times, like, you're going to see even the next game is going to go actually a lot better early game, and then we still just fall behind in gold. And so there's going to be a different problem there compared to what we had here, which I think will also be interesting to see. And then here, again, we're kind of trying to get something going, and I'm like, hey, I have move on the Yone. Maybe we can make a dive on mid here, get something going, since we did, you know, again, kind of fall behind. We wanted to see if we could at least make a play somewhere, which is kind of the goal here with this dive. Trying to have some type of plan, some type of play, but I feel like the main issue with this play is that we end up losing the bot wave, and that what ends up happening as well is that since we're doing it in mid lane, the Vi can always contest. If we do it on the side, if their jungle's on the other side, then they can't contest us. But when we do it on mid, we always get contested, which feels like a bigger issue overall. Which again, kind of like one of the reasons we just fall behind in gold. Like, even if we're making a play, we're bleeding some gold. And then when they make a play, you know, it's a lot more efficient, a lot quicker, and they still have their lanes covered, that type of thing. So that overall kind of felt like the biggest issue for us. Here, we're just trying to trade the Herald and then get out. Because we know that we're going to get contested here. We're like, hey, if one person dies, it's not the end of the world. We're just going to try to get out. And we do end up making it out for the most part. I think everyone ends up living. And so, yeah, we just try to at least trade. Again, the goal, now that we're behind in gold a lot, is just to trade what we can on the map. So even though we are, even though we're only 2 kills down, we're down a bunch of gold, right? So it's kind of the opposite of what we saw in the early games of our previous games. Like, was, again, we saw kind of the skill difference or like the coordination difference yesterday, where we were a lot more coordinated than the teams we were playing against, who were kind of just like sovereign level players. And then here you see again even the difference in coordination now, where the enemy are way more coordinated. They're getting way more gold out of all their plays, even when again only 2 kill difference. Whereas again we were like 0-0 and up 1,000 gold, you know, in some of our games the previous day. And so because of that, again, now I can't really trade super well with the Jax. The Jax is relatively strong. My champion doesn't do super well in side lane into Jax, especially not when, you know, behind on gold. And then we kind of know that Vi is looking for a dive here, so I'm calling it, and I'm trying to basically trade so that they can't get the wave under the turret. Because if they get the wave under the turret, it's really easy to dive me. So I'm basically just trying to make sure that's not possible. That was my main goal. I used the unstoppable on my ultimate to stop them. If I flashed and stunned Vi, I think I could have killed Vi there. So mechanically speaking, I think I made a mistake there and could have gotten an outplay there. The main goal was just stall, but I do definitely feel like I should have just flashed on the Vi and stunned her. I think she would have died, and that would have been a bit better as well. So that was kind of an issue, and then I think I maybe wasn't even diveable there because it was just Vi and Jax. If I just sat under tower full health and didn't try to trade for that wave, might have been better as well, rather than going for kind of the outplay there. But I do think, you know, we had some desperation. We didn't have a lot we could do at this point. Falling behind in the game, just kind of, you know, slowly bleeding out of our hands. So I thought it was fine play. I think, again, if I just flashed, I would have got that outplay, and it would have been really good. But I don't know, kind of debatable. The more I'm thinking about kind of, again, the main issues, it feels like a lot of times our side laner in Hadi falls behind, and he's playing a scaling pick that, you know, is a bit squishier and easier to put behind. Meanwhile, I'm on a champion that we're fine with getting behind, but I'm on the mid lane, whereas I think, again, Hadi could have been mid lane possibly, as he actually mentioned before. And then if he's mid lane, he's going to get the extra XP and probably be pretty fine. Here I get caught, definitely bad by me, just kind of walking mid. I feel like at this point we were kind of lost because we did feel like we were just behind so much, and so we kind of fall pretty far behind. And again, I just kind of walk mid when, I guess if I'm looking at it, overall, instead of hovering mid here, I could have probably just farmed my teammate's jungle camp. Like, he's not going to farm this camp for a while. I might as well have just farmed it. And then I could have protected mid in case they made a play. Because again, our team was making a play top side, and then I'm trying to do something here as the side laner who's, again, supposed to be, now I'm supposed to be the one who's kind of on the weak side, not doing much. So the same way that we kind of saw Hadi, our Fiora, level 2, where he was trading really aggressive with Yone, even though we were pathing away from him. I now did the same mistake where I'm doing something more aggressive, trying to make a play when I'm on the side of the map that just, again, should be, you know, kind of not doing much at that point. So we kind of see that lack of understanding from both me and Hadi, where then we fall behind because we're just trying to do too much. Again, playing more like a solo queue game rather than playing, you know, more like we're in an actual 5-man group. And so at this point, again, we have a decently strong Kai'Sa, but apart from Kai'Sa, we probably don't have much we can really do. I mean, Riven's not weak right now either. Like, it just feels overall hard, like I said, to really do much. Our team does get a decent play here topside, I think. Like, I think we get a couple kills, or 1 kill at least on Jax, and they get something. But even when we get these random kills, it doesn't really do that much for us. Like, we still are just behind a lot, bleeding a lot of gold. So it doesn't feel that great overall. And yeah, again, we're kind of going to skip through and see what else we see here. I just want to push out the wave before we rotate to the objective. And then we just we decided to give up the objective because we know that Hadi can't really come. And then at this point, Hadi maybe gets caught topside. Yeah, this is where the game kind of ends. So basically, they're chasing Hadi. I have TP in 9 seconds, and so we're kind of wanting to stall and see if we can end up finding a fight here, which is what we're looking for. And then, again, Hadi just tries to stall as long as possible. He does a pretty good job of it. But I'm just waiting for my TP to come up, and then my TP eventually comes up. The enemy are going pretty deep, and then this fight was really, really close, by the way. Like, I genuinely think, like, if this fight goes different, might have been a chance we could win this game. And you're just going to see, like, everyone lives on pretty much 1 HP on the enemy team. Jax is 1 HP, doesn't die until, like, the very end, if he does even die. No, he doesn't, and the Azai doesn't as well. So, very close fight. If my TP is up a couple minutes earlier, we possibly have a chance of winning. But instead, the enemy now kind of get a big advantage. And so at this point, what we're looking for pretty much is, like, can we somehow get a sneak on the Baron or force the Baron at some point? Because we know we have to force something kind of crazy in order to possibly come back. So we end up doing that, trying to force the Baron, but we end up losing it. And again, I'm skipping through because we're mostly talking about the decision making here. But naturally we lose the Baron because we're kind of, you know, desperate since we're behind a lot. We try to force some things and nothing basically works, and the game ends from there. Obviously, once we fall behind, again, I think there's nothing to do. So we just kind of look for these, you know, few random plays and see if we can make anything happen, which we don't. And again, we'll just show you the game kind of slowly bleeding out. And so then we're going to skip through to the next game now. Over here, I thought we had a really good draft for this game. Overall, like our draft felt really, really good. I'm not going to talk super hard about draft since I am more concerned with the gameplay stuff. So we're just going to skip through. I know I'm kind of lazy. I don't want to edit. I'm just going to skip through here. This time we decided to match lanes. So we put me on the side lane, which again, we kind of had a limited amount of time. You know, the game was basically starting right away to kind of think of what we wanted to do differently. And we thought like, oh, they had too much mid prio, so they were able to make the play. I think when I look at it in hindsight, that wasn't really the actual issue. As we kind of spoke about, the issue was more not understanding who's the weak side, who's the strong side, not understanding where we want to play around, and then also not preventing that invade level 2, which we could have if we just have jungle start red buff. Which, and again, if I'm more aggressive on the first wave. So those were really, to me, the actual issues. Here I take barrier because I just want to not be dove, and I'm kind of sort of just accepting I might fall behind. However, we do have our jungle path towards me, where again, here I think jungle pathing towards Gwen might be better because Renekton's fine from behind and can kind of always be useful, but Gwen sort of wants that lead. And so I think if we played around Gwen here, might have been better as well. However, you're going to see the early game actually goes pretty well for us. So they end up going for the ward, and because he goes for the ward, I just push level 1 to get the prio, because that's my main purpose here, is just like have prio into the rumble early. I'm going to get outscaled by him. There's nothing I can do. I'd rather just hope that we can get an early lead and then see what goes on. And then here, the enemy end up looking like they're making some type of play, and since I had the lane pushed, I'm looking like, can I rotate towards mid? But nothing ends up happening, and so I just trade onto the rumble then with my empowered first ability, and we get a fine enough trade. So again, early, I'm kind of just trying to trade pretty hard. He's taking grasp, so he's a bit better in the lane, but we're still pretty fine with the matchup overall. And then my teammates, yeah, they end up doing really well. I believe they get a double kill here. In mid, the enemy just kind of really deeply overextend and look for too much, yeah. And then they do end up getting a double kill. So the early game goes really well here, obviously early. Just very messy. I don't really know. I didn't really see what was happening, obviously, since I am just, you know, a measly side laner. But this time it looks like the enemy do just kind of overextend, and we take advantage of that. So we get a pretty good lead early. And at this point now, you know, the game progresses pretty normally. The enemy jungle's pathing to the same side as our jungle, which is good when we have a good early game, you know, comp like this where we have Lee Sin and Renekton. And it's also good because we obviously got an early lead. So at this point, everything's going well. Everything's going pretty smoothly. I'm up a level, so I decided to trade. But I think I made a mistake here because I didn't auto-attack to get my empowered W, so I could empower W his shield and break it. Otherwise, I would have won the trade a lot harder. Nonetheless, I end up recalling, so it doesn't really matter. And you can see here, again, I took barrier instead of TP because we kind of realized we didn't have enough combat power in the lanes a lot of times, so we only wanted TP on our side laner in Gwen. But yeah, again, here, early game, we have a lead on our ADC. Top lane's doing well. I'm doing fine in my lane. Everything's going well. So we'll kind of see where the game does end up turning, you know, not as good, because again, we're kind of just looking at it in the context of what could we have done better here. So in this case, I kind of know that I am the weak side champion now at this point, right? My jungle is pathing away from me, so I need to make sure I'm very aware of that. That's kind of the main thing I'm looking for. And because I do that, I try to ward their camp. I know that the junglers are matched, so I know I'm kind of just in a 1v1 here. So it's fine to trade if I want, but it obviously depends if I think the trade is actually good or not. So here again, my team ends up going for a fight, but their mid ends up just staying, like their Lucian just stays mid. So because he stays mid, I just go and cover mid, and I think he just doesn't notice me, and we're able to get a free pick onto him, as we see here. So again, like pretty good plays. Like it ends up being 4-0 once the Lucian dies. I flash onto him and get the kill. We use our prio to just get that free kill. Our mid laner gets prio now, and everything's looking perfect here. Like again, this is, you couldn't really ask for a better early game. We're up 1,000 gold. We have 4 kills. Everything's going well. And I think a lot of the reasons that it went well were mistakes from the enemy, but also the fact that we had prio in top line allowed us to push into mid, and we can cover that mid as our team looks for the rotation bot side, whereas the Lucian, again, he just stayed in mid, so we kind of had the numbers advantage there, played well, and just overall played well together. Here I'm trying to trade with the Rumble. I'm trying to get my empowered W on his shield this time, and I end up trading decently well. I think I should have just focused on getting this gold, though, because I kind of did miss out on a little gold. But I was kind of trying to trade hard since my Alistar was coming. I wanted to see if I could do anything, but nothing really ends up happening that I remember. I might be forgetting something. Yeah, oh, right, I got pushed into the wall. I forgot about this. No, so I made a big mistake here, actually. So this is just a really bad play by me. I totally forgot this happened, but yeah, basically, I end up trying to dash into Poppy, and I think like when I think about why this type of thing would happen, largely I think it comes down to like when you're playing in a tournament, it's kind of like a different feeling you have. And this, to be clear, is not me trying to make like an excuse for a mistake, because it's just a mistake, but it's important to try to figure out why you made mistakes. And sometimes mistakes are lack of focus, or sometimes they're lack of knowledge or whatever. And in this case, to me, I'm not actually thinking about like really specific things. Like normally when I'm playing, I'm thinking like, oh, this is the spell the champion has, so I want to wait until they use this spell, and then I want to react with this spell or whatever. In this case, I don't even think about Poppy having like their thing to interrupt my dash or anything, and so then I put myself in a really bad position. I don't think about the fact that Rumble will ult to follow up, and so this kind of turns the game really bad here. And I think it's just kind of like that different environment. It's like as a tournament, you're less comfortable, and so sometimes you forget to think of those basic things, which leads to me just, you know, inting here completely. And again, we knew that their ADC was rotating because we saw them not being in mid lane, and then I just end up dying for no reason. And because of that, you know, obviously we end up dying and it doesn't work out super great. I think this actually turns out okay for us too, though. If I remember correctly, like Corrupt the Lee Sin, he ends up getting a double kill. Yeah, and Sivir gets a kill there. So like it worked out fine, honestly. Like, you know, we can pretend like I made that mistake on purpose. But yeah, we're still up 1,300 gold as a team. We're up 5 kills. Everything's still going well. So that mistake was stupid, but I don't think like actually impacts result. Super hard, but either way we do end up falling behind at some point, and I forget kind of when it was, so I'm trying to remember, but I think we'll kind of just be going through it as we watch. Here we have the push, and we're trying to see if we can look for a play on Rumble because our Lee is coming, so we end up trying to be a bit more aggressive, looking for the stun, looking for some type of trade, just seeing if he can go forward. At this point we know their jungle is probably going to path to the other side, but then we do see Rumble coming, so I think because Rumble's coming it's maybe a bit over aggressive. Unless we see Rumble kind of go away here. But yeah, we're just trying to get Prio, make sure we're ready for objectives, that type of thing. Nothing too complicated. Setting up for an objective. In this case, Haughty, I don't remember if he had TP up or not, but I think we definitely should contest my objective because I'm the stronger early game champion, and if he has TP, he can just TP to the fight. But I don't remember if he did have TP or not. He was unable to talk for the first game. I think he was talking this game, yeah, because... But yeah, we end up just trading objectives, and then we use this to get... Okay, so here is... I remember, I also think this is kind of an issue then. So the issue here is, again, us not thinking about what specific champions can do. So we know Rumble's on this side of the map, and we're saying, like, hey, we can maybe look for a dive. We saw them, like, some of them bot. We could probably overload the side and use or use the numbers advantage, even though they got Herald, to, like, make a play. But if we didn't think about the fact that Rumble can just ult the wave, right? And so Rumble is like a really good weak side champion, where he can just completely like draw a bunch of pressure and just ult the wave, and then you have nothing you can do. Whereas our champion is getting, you know, screwed over right now is Gwen, because Gwen's on the other side, and Gwen is really squishy. So I think what we could have done here was, as soon as we got Dragon, I could have just reset and gone bot side, and then Haughty goes top side, or Gwen goes top side, is matching Rumble, and then I'm a lot harder to dive on bot side if we want to make a play top. That's going to be a lot easier. And then, yeah, we'd actually be able to do something. Instead, Rumble ends up ulting, and then because Rumble ults, we're kind of just stuck here not doing much. Lee Sin kind of just tries to force something too, and I think we should have just backed out, and then I just should have backed out too after. Like, we just, in general, get too greedy. I think I might end up living. I don't remember. Rumble chases me, so I do die. We get some flashes out, but yeah, this is kind of where the problem came, where it's like, we don't understand basically the concept of who is getting screwed over and who do we want to screw over, both in terms of our enemy and our teammates. And so here we end up screwing over Gwen, and we try to screw over Rumble. Rumble can't get screwed over, just not a champion you can kill when he has ult. He just ults the wave. Gwen can get screwed over. Whereas, say this was a Renekton here, me with the ultimate and barrier, I'm not gonna die, right? Like this dive that we just watched Gwen die to, I don't die to this dive because I'm you know, Renekton with ultimate. And so again, that lack of understanding leads to us losing first turret, leads to us falling behind, and now we're down 1,000 gold despite being up 3 kills. And so this is where the gold starts to kind of get screwed. I keep saying screwed a bunch. This is where the gold goes in the enemy favor a lot. And so even though we have a dragon, I think with our lead, if we prio the Herald, we're able to do a lot more to snowball the game more heavily, which again, in this meta, I do think generally looking to kind of play around turrets and play around getting that gold lead more than the dragon lead is probably more valuable. And then because of that, again, we're just playing too hard around that. And then now Rumble and Garen are both ahead. So now that Rumble and Garen are ahead, I can't side lane against Rumble because he outscales me and he has more gold than me right now. And then Gwen can't side lane against Garen because he's just has Hullbreaker. So Gwen can't really do anything against the Hullbreaker. And so from this point on, again, we're just going to kind of show like what else happens. But at this point, again, I think this already kind of makes the game super hard just with the lane matchups. Even if my team goes and fights in mid, again, we're down gold now. So winning that 4v4 fight is hard, which ends up, we lose that 4v4 fight, it looks like. I don't remember exactly what happens. It looks like a pretty close fight. Like, we're still not so far behind that we can't win fights. But again, you can see I can't trade with Rumble. He's just going to hard win these trades. I don't have TP, so I can't get back to lane. Even though we get mid, I lose out on my side lane. I end up going for Hullbreaker here to see if I can like match Garen at all, but my champion just can't match Garen at this point in the game. We're just too far behind. Again, now behind almost 2,000 gold. The gold leads just keeps ballooning and ballooning. And again, a lot of that gold lead is the side lanes really that fall behind, like our side lanes, because again, we don't play properly around which side lane are stronger and weaker. So like even though our ADC gets fine, jungle's fine because they're farming, they're doing normal stuff, it's really the side lanes that end up getting put behind because of these kind of mistakes that we're making on the map. And through that, again, now I'm stuck on a lane matchup where I can't do much here. I get pushed in terms of the matchup, and now we just look for a team fight. And then this is where I remember exactly what happened here too. So I'm saying like, can we fight? We're like, yeah, we can fight, basically. We can go on the fight, we'll go in. And then they get Poppy ulted, and then by the time I'm aware that they got Poppy ulted, like I'm already in. And again, if I'm looking at when they get Poppy ulted, because I don't remember the situation because it was just in the game. So they get Poppy ulted like right now. And then I flash in pretty much right when they did. So I think this is just purely communication. Again, like you can just say like, oh, Talon, why weren't you paying attention to Poppy ult? I think it's fair if you want to just say like, I should pay attention. I don't mind like if that's the conclusion. And if in the future I need to be more aware of that, I think that's fair. But I do think generally communication is like something that you're obviously able to do when you're talking to your teammates in a 5-man type of game. I think if they're saying like, hey, Poppy's looking to ult us, don't go in, we're not going to go in. Whereas like I'm unaware of that. So I do think ultimately communication probably is the main issue there. However, I could see the argument to just say that I should just be aware of that. And I think that's fair enough. And then here at this point, I tell them, I say, hey, I think we should just flip Baron. The game is going pretty bad. They're currently resetting. They reset very poorly here. And again, this is why, like, in my eyes, like, they make a lot of mistakes that could be punished. So in this situation, they haven't reset before Dragon, and Baron spawns in 14 seconds. We see their jungle topside right now. Just now resetting. We see 3 of them mid lane, and then we see them back off. We know they're probably going to reset, and I'm saying, hey guys, let's just go do the Baron. Like, we're behind, we might as well just go flip it. Can we do it? And I say, can we do it? Like, let's go do it. I'm basically telling you, like, hey, we should go do it. And in my opinion, we make a big mistake here by not doing it nearly fast enough. We end up getting on it like 3 seconds late, and Gwen's pushing out a side lane wave instead of bursting it down. Again, the goal is not to place blame here. You could say that I'm wrong and that we shouldn't flip it, and if that's the conclusion, I think, that's fair enough. But to me, then we have Alistar to W and zone, and then we have Lee Sin to ult. And then if we kind of look at what ends up happening, so again, we didn't get it low enough fast enough, even though they fucked up their tempo really badly. And then Lee Sin here does walk up and try to ult him because he's trying to get him away, but then he's not in range to ult, then it gets slowed, and it gets really messy, and we end up losing the Baron. And that's pretty much where the game goes wrong. Or the game ends, I guess. We were already losing, and then the game kind of completely ends at that point. So in summary, from what I'm seeing, and again, all these things, I'm saying it as if I like reviewed this. Like this is just what I'm concluding after watching this back. I haven't watched these games back. And during the time, I wasn't really thinking about these mistakes because obviously I was just focusing on let's go to the next game and think what we can do in the next game. But in conclusion, early games, especially the first game, we need to be able to prevent that early invade, which we can do if we put solo lane mid, as long as we're more aggressive on the first wave. Me personally, and again here I'm just trying to stop the wave, but if I'm personally more aggressive on the wave and we have jungle start red buff, we won't get invaded, so then we can take advantage of the fact that we have dual lane on side lane to path towards that, play more around that. I think there were multiple cases where we didn't play around side lanes properly, where again Hadi was the Fiora, he was weak sided early game and he decides to trade really hard, gets ganked and punished for that. Later on in the game, I'm weak sided at that point because my team's playing around now Hadi, and I go forward and try to make a play despite being on the wrong side of the map. I get punished for it, and so we didn't really understand that. And then in this game here, again, we didn't understand if we could punish the enemy Rumble, for example, where obviously they can just ult the wave. We didn't think about that. Different situation where I didn't think about Poppy's spells. I didn't keep track of the spells, and then I get screwed over because I E in, even though he has his dash stopper thingy, and then he puts me against the wall and I die. A lot of those types of things that are wrong. And then like not decisive, again on that Baron call, if we're decisive, we 100% get that, and that would be a good play as well. So that obviously made it harder as well. And then I do think, I mean, we weren't communicating very well. If you guys did watch the stream, I mean, some of our teammates just couldn't talk because like things were going on. Like they just can't talk because of real life. You know, that's fine. Like things happen. But that made it, you know, like it's harder to communicate as much, and we're kind of like pretty silent. I'm trying to talk a bunch, probably even over talking, that I could have just been, you know, silent a bit more and just let people focus. And then that leads to probably like me communicating too much, others communicating not enough, and then it's kind of like unbalanced. So we don't know exactly what everyone's thinking or what's best for them in the game. And then we're kind of, again, uncoordinated. So like that Poppy ult, we're not really going in at the proper time, where I'm not aware that Poppy will ult them, which again, if I'm thinking about spells, I'm like, oh, Poppy has ult, we're not going to be able to go in, that type of thing. So if we're just keeping track of all these different factors in the game, I think it's a lot better. But I think the biggest thing that led to us losing this tournament was the fact that we didn't understand basically weak side versus strong side, playing more around our strengths and who we want to play around. Because again, we're 10 to 10 in kills these games. Like most of the games, we're not losing because we're losing lanes super hard. It's because we either die to a gank that we weren't aware of, or we don't play properly around a lane, or we end up losing turrets on you know, different places on the map or that type of thing, really leading to the game being a lot more screwed. And then here we just try to force some stuff because we're down 10k gold. So it's like we're going to force, you know, and see if we can make a miracle play. We can't make a miracle play, spoiler alert, and we lose the game. So those were the two games. The third game literally ended in like a minute or two. I don't think there's much to review. Frankly, I think our draft was bad, and we probably weren't in the best mental state after getting stomped 2 games, or not even stomped, but like, you know, definitely weren't very close. So that was overall the tournament. We got 3rd place, you know, again, not upset at all. I thought it was super fun. I enjoyed learning these new things from more coordinated play, a lot different than playing, you know, just normal solo queue games. So it's fun to see the difference. And I hope you guys enjoyed seeing the difference as well. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you're interested in coaching or anything like that, DM me on Discord, Talon1169, or through the link in the description to my Discord server for coaching. And I'll see you guys in the next video.